Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Scorpion Cigar Reviews. Today I will be reviewing the Asylum 13. This is the 6x80 size. Thing is absolutely huge. $9.45 at my local tobacconist. Remove the tissue paper from the foot, maybe. Let me see here. The thing about tissue paper is it tears easily. Alright. General tobacco scents on the wrapper. Maybe a hint of cedar in there. Now, I'm outside and it's a little windy, so having a hard time picking up the scents. Now the foot, definitely getting cedar. Some other kitchen spices, some grains. Maybe a little slight hint of leather in there. Okay. Well, let's see. I wondered how I was going to cut such a large cigar, and I guess I'm about to find out. I will be using my guillotine cutter. Now, a lot of times these guillotine cutters say that they'll cut up to a 50 ring gauge or a 56 ring gauge, or whatever they specify. Now keep in mind, you're not cutting the entire cigar, so just because you've got a cutter that says, well, it's good to 54 ring, and you've got an 80 ring cigar, it doesn't mean, well, how am I ever going to cut this? Well, you only need a little opening, so as long as you can get some portion of it in there. I may have to do a V-cut on this. This is so large that I don't know if I don't think it's going to work. So I'll tell you what. Let me step back in the house, grab my V-cutter, maybe I'll have a little better luck with that. Be right back. Alright. I now have my V-cutter. Now I suppose what else I could have done was used a punch cutter and maybe made 3 or whatever punches. Alright, let's see if that does the trick. I'm getting some decent airflow now. Some leather, some cedar. Yeah, that's the bulk of what I'm getting on the pre-draw. Leather and cedar, very pleasant. Okay. Quit your barking. Let's give that a shot. Right off the bat, I'm getting that initial blast of pepper. Slight underlying hint of sourness. rear of the palate. Dry smoke. Very long finish with that pepper. Still going on. Very, very peppery. Way in the rear. Still a little bit in the mouth. Around the tongue. Even on the cheeks a little bit. Lots of pepper there. Okay. I'll get somewhere into the first third and I'll be back. Here we are, about 20 minutes in. Did have to touch up the cigar a little bit. It was burning a little unevenly and the ash was starting to curve over towards one side. Seems to be okay at the moment. There's definitely almost a sour taste that's kind of washing over everything and masking some of the other flavors. Slight hint of pepper still in there. Smoke's a little dry, not as bad as it was on the initial lighting. Something else there, but it's hard to pick out what it is with that sour wash. Just kind of coats, surrounds everything else that's going on. Really dominating everything in there. Well, I'll continue on. I'll get somewhere into the second third and see if some of these other flavors can overcome the sourness. It's not sour in a bad way, but it's definitely masking all the other flavors. I'll be back. Here we are about 30 minutes in. Now I had about an inch, maybe inch and a quarter, somewhere in there, worth of ash on there. And it seemed to have been holding on pretty well. Well, I thought, well, maybe I could open up the draw on this a little bit by taking my V-cutter and crossing the original V-cut, just to give me a little more open area. And when I did that, the ash fell off onto the deck here, but you know, broke off kind of jagged. You see it's got a bit of a point on it, and then from there on it started burning really unevenly again. So I will be touching this up. The smoke's becoming very thin. Now I will mention while I'm touching this up that I started to pick up some of the other flavors. If you peel back that sour shell, you can then pick out some nuts, maybe like a roasted peanut or something like that. Not a peanut though. Maybe more like an almond. Like when you first bite into an almond, and you've removed the shell, and you've got the almond. It's got a little bit of like a skin around it, and that skin is dry and a little bit sour or bitter, but then once you get into the meat of the nut, that's what I was picking up. The sour skin, and then within the meat. So you have to kind of peel back these layers as you're smoking it. So this cigar, to me, at this point, would be for definitely for an experienced cigar smoker. You have to be able to search deep within these flavors that are in your mouth and kind of peel each one back and try to pick them out. But anyway, I'll go and I'll touch this up a little bit, see if I can get a little better draw off of it. So the smoke is getting really thin and the burn is just really wonky. Let's see what we can do here. That's better. The cigar is starting to become quite warm, very warm, almost hot to the touch. Yeah, I would call that hot. All the way until you are actually holding it at the nub above the band. Smoke is still a little bit dry. Subtle hint of pepper. That sour coating around a nutty center. Not quite sweet like an almond, but something along those lines. For the size of the cigar, it's actually burning relatively quickly. I've only been smoking this for just over 30 minutes, and it's burning down pretty quickly. Now the label, I don't foresee any issues removing the label as I'm able to spin it around the cigar. In fact, maybe I'll go ahead now. I don't know, I might want to keep that label on there for a little more insulation because it, as I mentioned, it is getting quite warm. This is a cigar that you really have to pay attention to, not only because of the burn issues, but you have to concentrate on the flavors that are there. Try to peel them back layer by layer to see what all's there. Not that it's a really complex cigar, it's just the flavors are masked by that kind of sour note that's just encompassing what's there. Okay, I'll continue on and I'll be back. Here we are, about 45 minutes in. Picking up some earthy minerals. A little bit of meatiness, like maybe along the lines of baked chicken. Once again, still encompassed by that sour note that's just surrounding everything. Having a hard time keeping a decent burn on this. You can see it's all wonky again. You have to take multiple draws to get a good solid amount of smoke to get some decent flavors. Just a single draw, it's very thin. You have to 2, 3, 4 in a row, and then you get this good solid base of smoke where the flavors are concentrated. Still kind of subtle. It's not a powerhouse cigar. Maybe medium body and strength at best. Alright, I'll continue on and I'll be back in a bit. Here we are about an hour and 10 minutes in. Now I did go ahead and knock off all that uneven burned ash. Touched it up. So far it seems to be holding relatively well. It's, you know, it's not perfectly even, but it's probably the best it's been the whole time I've been smoking it. Definitely picking up some minerals. That outer layer of sourness has really diminished. Cigar is softening up. It's quite spongy. Smoke is still relatively dry. Now that nut aspect that I had mentioned earlier, I thought maybe it was something along the lines of an almond, but the more I thought about it, the more I smoked it, it's more reminiscent of a walnut. Walnut is very dry and sour on the outer portion of the meat, and then deep inside you get that nutty, but it's still dry. That was the nut. I'm getting a little bit of that. A little bit of pepper on the rear of the palate. For me, probably the biggest put off on this cigar is the dryness of the smoke and that sour coating. If it weren't for those two aspects, this would be a much more pleasant cigar. I mentioned it was burning relatively quickly, after only being an hour and 10 minutes in, and this was a 6x80 cigar. I would have thought this would have been, you know, easily a 3-hour cigar, easily. But at this point, I'll be surprised if I get, say, an hour and a half. Now for me, I probably wouldn't do a cigar like this again. It's not my style. Much too large of a ring gauge for my taste. Recently I reviewed the same cigar in a 7x70 ring, and that cigar was absolutely awful. This cigar is tons better, but still not my forte. I would certainly not purchase a cigar like this again. And probably if someone offered it to me, I would probably say no thanks. In my opinion, it's not a good value. It was $9.45, I think. Could have got two much better cigars for that price. I've been a lot happier with them. I'll continue on. I'm going to go and grab another beer, because this is definitely a cigar that you have to have something to drink with. Just keep your throat from closing up. I can feel my tongue swelling from the dryness, sticking to my cheeks and the roof of my mouth. And every time I go to take a draw, I can just feel it sucking the moisture out of me. So with that, I'm going to go grab another beer and I'll be back. Here we are, just about 90 minutes in. I did go ahead and touch it up again. Not a whole lot going on with the cigar as far as flavor profile. This was an unsatisfying cigar, in my opinion. Now for me, I have several different categories for cigars. Cigars that are absolute crap, that you smoke them, you have no desire to smoke another cigar the rest of the day, and while you're smoking it, you're thinking, why do I even smoke cigars? This thing is absolutely awful. Then you have cigars that are okay. And those cigars, for me, they leave me not quite satisfied, leave me wanting another cigar later in the day to try to salvage your smoking experience for the day in hopes that you'll get a cigar that's really good. My next category of cigars will be a good cigar. Leaves you satisfied, some good flavors, good construction, no real issues. Not the best cigar, but you're happy with what you've smoked. Then there's the really good cigars. That's a cigar that definitely satisfies, leaves you wanting more. So, boy, I wish I had more of this cigar. Then there are the absolutely phenomenal cigars. Those are the cigars you rarely come across, and you don't want to smoke another cigar that day for fear that if you got a cigar later on in the day that was less than satisfying, it would diminish your overall smoking experience for the day. The cigar was okay. I'm sure later in the day I'll find myself wanting another cigar. I'll end this review here. I'll probably smoke it down a little bit further. But I'd say that I would recommend this cigar to an experienced cigar smoker. If for you bigger is better, this would be the cigar for you. But be prepared for some burn issues. Jagged, uneven burn. Very dry smoke. You're going to definitely want something to drink with this. If you're the kind of person that just smokes the cigar and doesn't drink anything, this would probably not be the cigar for you. Just, unimpressed. So, I thank you for once again watching Scorpion Cigar Reviews. I'll catch you next time. Dedicate this review to my friends in Finland, Donnie and Sketty. You've been asking me to review this cigar. There you have it. Those are my thoughts, my opinions. And there you go.